Okay, here we are in the second installment of this assignment. What I want to talk to everybody about just to get started is being aware of where your paper is sitting. So what I recommend to everybody is that you put the paper you're working on top of the rest of the paper in your pad, okay? Don't tear this out and then put it on some other work surface, because we don't know if that work surface is smooth and is going to give you a nice smooth, even surface. We don't want it to be bumpy or anything. So draw in your pad. And then the other thing is, if you're working from home, you might not have a perfect tabletop to be doing this on. So you could consider picking up one of these artists' clipboards, if you can see it. These are these gigantic clipboards. It's really big. And you can put your paper on here, and this gives you a super smooth, nice surface to work on. This is great if you find yourself in an awkward position where you don't have a big table to spread out. Okay, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to lay out my shapes, and I'm going to show you how to actually draw the shapes and make them look 3D. After that, we're going to talk about how to shade them in. So what I want you to notice is that the shapes look 3D. I'm going to show you how to make them look like 3D, and they all have a shadow. Now, we don't have a perfect setup of this in the room to go by where we could actually see what the shadows are doing and all that stuff. So what we're doing here is sort of our educated best guess. I want to point out some things to you guys. This cylinder has its darkest shadow here, and I want you to notice that the darkest shadow is not on the edge of the cylinder. Likewise, it has its brightest highlight here, and I want you to notice that that brightest highlight is also not on the edge of the cylinder. It's in a little bit. This is slightly darker than this. Likewise, let's look down here at the cone. This is the darkest part of the cone. It's actually got a name. It's called the core shadow. And I want you to notice that the core shadow is not on the edge. Likewise, this main highlight is not on the edge. There's actually a little bit of shading happening right here, okay? The sphere as well. We've got our core shadow. This time the core shadow is in the shape of a crescent moon. Notice that it's not on the edge. Instead, we've got some reflected light happening right there on the edge. The highlight on the sphere is circular, and it is also not on the edge. Instead, we've got a little bit of shading happening right there on the edge. Okay, so let me come back to my work in progress, which I'm sort of bummed I messed it up at the end of the last video by using my blending tool here. I'm going to erase that because it's bothering me. Okay, my advice for many things is when you do your layouts, use an HB pencil, because HB is the easiest pencil to erase. And my other advice is draw really lightly and don't commit to any of this until you're confident that the entire layout is pleasing to the eye. Once again, if you want to see the finished one to get a sense of where I put the shapes, you can. If you want to move your shapes around, I am fine with that, as long as the finished drawing is 14 by 17 and your shapes pleasantly fill up the space of the page. We don't want them too small, we don't want them too big. We want to really think about our layout and the use of negative space, how close everything is to the edge, and make a nice, professional, balanced layout. So I'm going to literally follow this exact one. Let me go ahead and try my best to draw a circle for the sphere. Now watch me do this, guys. I do not get it right the first time. I don't expect myself to. I'm just going to go around and around, lightly, until I've got something circular, okay? Later, I'll pick my favorite one, but that's a placeholder now for my sphere. For my cylinder, I'll put it over here. Here's how you do your cylinder. Are you ready? We're going to draw an oval. Okay, maybe something like that. I'm drawing really lightly. Let me just make sure it's showing up on the camera. Yeah, you guys can see it. Okay, now from the edges of my oval, I'm going to go straight down. Now you're probably wondering, can you use a ruler for this? Sure, why not? You can use a ruler, absolutely. You can draw 2 lines straight down. I am a compulsive eyeballer, so I'm going to freehand it. But also know that I'm freehanding with like 20 years of experience. So if you don't feel like you can freehand, that is fine. That is totally normal. Don't freehand, just use your ruler. 2 lines down. And then the bottom of the cylinder is actually another oval shape. It's just that we can't see the back part of it. So I'm going to do a matching oval, and then I'm going to erase the part I don't need. Okay, I'll come back and clean it up later, but let me leave that there for now. And let me come in and put my other shapes. So I'm going to have a pyramid. I'll put the pyramid down here. Let me just try to get basically a perfect triangle. Maybe something like that. Okay, that's fine. I'll come back to that in a minute. Let me get my square in here, my cube. For the cube, I'll show you in just a second how to make it in perspective, but we're going to start with a perfect square. Can you use your ruler to draw a perfect square? Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, you can. Could you trace something to make your circle? Absolutely, go for it. And then here's your cone. The cone and the cylinder have a lot in common. Specifically, the shape of the bottom, the base, is also going to be an oval for the cone. So I'll start with an oval. And once I have an oval, I'm going to go straight up from the middle, maybe here, maybe we'll go to there, okay? And then I'm going to connect, and I'm going to connect. Okay, next thing I need to think about is my light source. So I will stay consistent with my previous demo where my light source is coming in from the left-hand side slightly in front, okay? So that means all my shadows are going to be going off to the right. Let me back up. Let me see. Do I have enough space for everybody to have a shadow going off to the right? Yes, I think that'll be fine. Next question, am I happy with the size of everything? And I think this one's a little small. And I think this one, when I add in the other parts of it, might also be a little bit high, a little bit small. But I think I'm going to keep it. I think I'm just going to make this one a little bit bigger. So let me make a little adjustment. Now this is why we rough everything in to start, because if you need to fix something, it's not a problem. It's easy to erase. Versus if we did a whole lot of shading and a whole lot of work on one thing before laying everything else out, that's when we run into problems. Because it's just a pain to then have to come back and erase. Oops, let's get that a little bit more like an oval. That should be good. Let me connect. Oh, we'll go a little higher. How about that? Oh my God, I feel like Bob Ross or something. This is so weird, just like talking to myself. I'm sitting here in an office by myself. Sitting here in an office by myself, talking to you guys. All right. All right, let's talk about making these shapes look like they're in perspective. How do you make a square look like it's in perspective? Here's the way. Okay, you guys ready for this? My cube, if you guys can see, I'm going to drop in this edge, and this edge. And if I were to extend those edges really, really far away, okay, can you see how they're all merging towards each other in the distance? Okay, that's called the vanishing point. That means that I'm going to come over here, and for my cube, let me just say, maybe I want my vanishing point to be up here in the corner of the page. If I aim for that dot, can you see it? I put a little dot right there. I'm going to go ahead and connect each corner towards the dot. Okay, connect, connect, and then this one I'll connect again. You got to aim for that same dot or the illusion will be thrown off. Okay, you got it? Next, I'm going to draw my back edge. My back edge is going to be parallel to that edge. So I can even take my ruler here and I can make sure that I'm drawing it parallel. Now, how far back, I can't tell you. You kind of have to do it and then eyeball it. This edge right here, okay, this edge and this edge are also parallel. So I can take my ruler and I can go out to that back corner and I can look at my ruler and make sure that I'm aligning everything correctly so that I get a parallel line back here, okay? So you're gonna draw your square, you're gonna draw your 3 edges converging to your vanishing point, Then you're going to pop in those back edges, making sure they're parallel to the front edges. Okay, and that's how you get a cube in perspective. And we'll clean everybody up, and let me add for my my pyramid. Now, pyramids, they could be 3-sided, they could be 4-sided. Guys, we're not going to stress about this. What I'm going to do is clean up my triangle. Okay, I'm going to clean up my triangle, and then I'm going to pop in my back line. So I'm just going to aim in sort of that same general direction that I did, excuse me, for the cube. And then I'm going to connect it to the top. And something like this should do the trick. We just simply don't know the exact specifics of this pyramid, but something like that should give you a functional pyramid that looks like it's in perspective. The last thing I'm going to do is lightly pencil in a horizon line, because it always helps us to ground things if we sort of know where the horizon is. You'll see me doing this on other projects. You'll see me talking about it when we look at our big projects and our illustration layouts for those projects. We always like to have sort of a grounding field line, like a tabletop edge or horizon line. I'll come back and show you this. And let's talk about, actually, you know what, guys? This is 11 minutes in. I think I'm going to do the shading for this assignment in a third video. So just to repeat, what we did in this video is we laid out our shapes, and I can lay out the shadows. Let me lay out the shadows real quick. So for your shadows, we're gonna come, you know what, let me hold off on the shadows because I think it'll make more sense once I've done a little bit of shading and neatened these up. Okay, so what I've done in this video is I've drawn my sphere, my cylinder, my cube, my pyramid, and my cone. I've shown you how to make them look like they're in perspective, and we've made sure that we have a nice balanced layout on the page, leaving room for those shadows to extend to the right. I've drawn a horizon line in, and all of this was done with an HB pencil, which is our best option for layouts. Okay, I'll see you all in the next video.